results. But I'm not much of
main one.
have no money in this bitch. I'm gonna look soon.
Nothing works on this acne.
Hi. Who? I'm a licensed dermatology provider from Curology. Answer a few questions, I'll look at your skin and prescribe you a personalized cream.
Wow!
Curology. Skincare with a face.
Alright, I'm gonna start soon. I just gotta activate my card. It's gonna be a brand new day tomorrow. I'm gonna get a job interview before Probably just a warehouse job. I don't even know what I'm applying for. Scan the school phone no visual mobile app. Well, I guess I can just activate my bank. So yeah, tomorrow I have to go to Lowe's for an interview. I haven't been in an interview in a while. Just don't know what to say. I should probably prepare, but I really don't feel like it. Let's see. How do I... To activate your card, scan the code with your phone or visual mobile app. Activate card. Activate new card. Can wait. I work tomorrow. I'm gonna work the crap out of my job, dude. Gotta pay off my loans. Gotta pay some friends back. Build my economic status. At the same time, I'm gonna be working on my portfolio. It's been like more than 5 years. Alright, cool. I guess my card has been replaced by the old one. Can't believe they didn't give me a Panda card. I had this Panda card for years. I guess it doesn't work anymore. Gotta destroy it. I have this nasty pimple in the bottom of my lip. And I hate to go to the interview and have this blemish in my face. It's gonna be so awkward. But it eventually goes away. What does it mean when they punch a hole in your driver's license? I don't understand. I could have sworn I got a new license. I must have thrown the other one away by accident like a dumbass. Oh my gosh, I have my social security here? That's crazy. You guys carry your social security in your debit card? I don't know why I do that. Found it. Got my passport here. Damn, I look like a bum in my passport picture. So ugly. Okay. Yeah, I don't understand why they punch my driver's license. Why do they do that? It doesn't make sense. I think it's because it's been replaced. That's why they cut it off. something different with this one. I like to keep both. But maybe I should throw this one out. Whoa, 2 cards. Today's the day I snapped 2 cards. Look at that. That's taken care of. Gotta get my speaking voice back. Damn it, no water. I'm always standing up and going. Here I am. Okay, I got my water. It's actually a mixture of lemonade and 80% water. Lemonade by itself, it's very acidic. On top of that, I'm having an acidic apple as well. Alright, so the goal is, my director tells me, hey, I need the tree to look exactly or pretty much alike this tree over here. The problem is the branches are not necessarily following the tangent of the curved line, especially its endpoints. I gotta find a solution for that. My theory is I make separate trunks, not necessarily connected, but part of a whole. And they're all parented. And since they're all parented, they will look seamless. So I will make a huge one like that, and then a couple other big ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The important part is that the lower branches, they seem to be touching the ground, pretty much hugging the ground, which is pretty interesting. And then the large branches are as high as they can be. But overall, the canopy spreads open in this huge dome-like fashion. Like I giant bush. My tree is not even close to being that. This could be considered one trunk, just one, when it's supposed to be made of many, that's spread open and evenly and very noisy. I see there's a lot of curves. I made previous generations. This is the first generation I made. I had the curve, but I didn't have the many branches, which was very important. I believe this is another animation. Nope. This is my second tree. Notice how different it looks. Completely different. More branches. Thick trunk. But it seems to be missing this huge canopy. I have the huge canopy, but then my director says, I want to see the tree naked, but without the leaves. So then I said, yeah, no problem. I'll show you that. But I mean, this looks cool. This is a pretty cool tree. Unfortunately, I changed the file entirely, and I forgot to save this version. But like they always say, don't fall in love with your final version. There's always room for improvement. So you realize some of the branches, they look strange, very erratic. I should have probably put it in a white background so we can see how it looks with its silhouette. It's very hard to tell. Plus I put special lighting to hit it in a certain direction, because I wanted this to be the main focus. But overall, this piece right here is obviously a photo scan, and my director was able to tell that. He's like, is that a photo scan piece? Like, I can tell that the texture is higher. But then you compare that to the previous one. Let me compare it. You compare that to the previous one. Oh, I can't open two? That sucks. Let me see if I can. Ah, so lame. Doesn't let me compare. Wow. That's what I hate about Microsoft. There's restrictions, and I hate restrictions. I want liberty. And the funny part is, even though I'm clicking to open another video, it replaces the same media player, but I can't move on from another. Like, I'm thinking any video here is playable, but it's not. So strange. This is the type of things I'll complain to Microsoft, and I'll tell them, hey, make this change. I'm trying to showcase something over here. I'm fucking it up. Maybe I can open it with Microsoft Clipchamp. This is a whole program. When I just want a preview. I just want a simple preview to compare. And you're giving me the hardest time ever. This is a horrible preview. I can't even loop it, can I? Loop? More options? Nope, can't loop. Whatever. You can obviously tell the difference. I mean, Look at that. I like how it expands like that because that's exactly what I was looking for. This one branch almost touching the floor but reaching upwards. And then I compare that to the second model. My branch is low, but a little too high up. The textures are perfect. I love the textures. I like that grunge, that the lichen, fungus material that gets onto the tree. And I continue the texture, even though there are like 6 different textures in this tree. Not 6, I'm lying. Probably like 4 textures. But I mix them in a way that it's seamless, and you can't really tell until you look very close. Very close. So even though the textures are there, they're not 100%. If I were to get very close, you'll see the illusion it breaks. But I really do love how the branches, the individual branches, like spread open. Like I should have put this in a white background. I didn't know how to do it. Then again, I think this is a transparent. It's definitely transparent. If I edited with ClipChamp, maybe I'm able to put a white background. So we're able to understand what we're seeing. Filters, effects. Your media, content library. What if I put white background? What is this? What the hell? Okay, this could possibly work. Nope. I guess it is completely black. It's like balls. I thought it was a transparent thing. Alright, so now we got a view of that. This is an image. Let me see if I can zoom in. It wasn't 4K, so the image kind of breaks down once you get this close. But you can see the branches, they're kind of strange. They're like thick, skinny, and look, some of them are so erratic and curvy, like, and some of them do work, but then it kind of breaks the illusion that these are branches. It almost looks like a weird wired mesh. Really cool how the light plays, but yes. Let's and then my director's like, hey, give me the naked tree. And here's when I actually fixed the branches a little bit. I fixed them. You notice how they're not fat and thick anymore, but then I had this problem where the branches are not. Oh, let me zoom in. Guess I can't. Let's just mark out now. Oh, background? Oh, no way. What? Oh, that's horrible. That's just awful. Awful. Use the background. That did not work at all. But anyways, probably because the picture's not high quality. I try to fix the branches so they look less globules. They look like arteries. You know how arteries look in the human body. Some of them are fat, then they get skinny and fat and skinny. And then here is when I try to balance. Some of them are kind of thick, and as they reach to the outer side of the tree, they get very skinny. But then when they touch the main trunks, they look like nylon or like little pieces of string, and that's like that was no bueno either. You know, look at this; it looks strange. So I'm like, there's no way I can make this tree in one whole piece to look exactly like the reference. And it doesn't need to look exactly like the reference, but it needs to follow this this design, the way it just hovers. It's massive, and it takes over the entire composition. And then this one doesn't take over the entire composition. If I crop it, it still doesn't get that effect that I want. You know, sure you can crop it, but it's like no. But look, there's like missing here. There's the horizon here. It's like nothing is touching the ground. Makes some. This looks extremely weird. Weird branch. See how it just drops, and then I love this. Yeah, but then this drop here was awful. These repetitive things. This weird mesh over here was horrible. I didn't know how to fix that. But over here, it kind of looks right. But then, just the way they start, you know, they're supposed to be a little thicker, and I wasn't able to figure that out. So luckily, after watching this YouTuber, he explained to me. You see, with the leaves, it hides the illusion of what you saw. Pretty much hides it. You can't tell. There's no way you can tell. Plus, the black background makes it even more illusionary, I guess. It hides it all. See that crazy drop? I think I fixed that drop, but it's still. I love this tree. This is gonna be my favorite tree, obviously, but we're gonna make it better. So that's today's tutorial, and I was watching this guy's awesome geometry setup. You know, we start with a main trunk. The lovely part about this, I already color coded everything, so I know what I'm looking at. I'm not a professional mathematician when it comes to geometry notes, but I'm starting to get comfortable with it. I remember I had a similar feeling with After Effects when I first discovered it. I really love using Photoshop, and Photoshop was very intuitive. You wanted to do something, you just new layer, draw, whatever, highlight, lasso, brushes, and everything in between. But when it came to After Effects, it was like, whoa, what the hell is this? Why is there so many layers? What is this and what is that? What are these measurements and these buttons? What do they all do? They're so intimidating. But then I got over that with After Effects. I was like, okay, I'm able to just like off my mind with my imagination. Just need to know what I need, and I just need to know what I need to ask. That's the important part. I need to understand what I'm asking for. And thanks to Microsoft Copilot, I'm able to ask just normal questions, and somehow it's able to like give me a result. And because of that result, I found that YouTuber. The link's in the description. This YouTuber called Kenan Proffitt.
Hey everyone, Kenan Proffitt here. Welcome back to another.
Kenan Proffitt. His tutorial was so intuitive, which helped me understand the branch system, although it's not perfect, because I still gotta fix a few things. But I like the idea. It's there. It's basically what I want. But then I have some issues over here, and I'm able to fix that later. But then I was like, okay, I have his note set up here. I watched his tutorial in the description. His note setup was very interesting, and it helped me understand indexes and the way people use indexes and spline parameters. Let's see, where did I use an index? I didn't know what an index was until this guy helped me understand what they're for. Where did I use it? I know I used it on something. Yeah, here, an index. So basically an index is like you have a line, right? You have a huge line. You have a is this? Oh, I can't barely see anything with this orange ass highlights. How do I turn off that highlight? Bones, outline selected. Okay, I turned it off. And let me turn off this outline too. So basically an index in the spline parameter is you have my main spline here, right? And it has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different points. And each point can have like a variation. Like it knows that from top to bottom there's 6 points, and then the index is basically saying, look at all these 6 points, look at all of them, 1 through 6, and then depending on what, you know, what you call these greater than, less than, equal to, and these, I forget what they're called, input types. I don't know the names of these node systems. Basically math node systems, which basically say choose whichever you want, but it cannot, like an inequality, it cannot be above 1 and it cannot be beyond 6. But I want to pick a randomization, like I pick this one, pick that one, this one, or this one. Pick at random, but you don't want it to go above picking, because this is like an infinite points, right? You can draw this as long as you want, and there's gonna be infinite points. But the index would be like, select this one, select that one, this one, greater than or equal or less than. So I want you to select as many as you can, but not more than that. And then that was an interesting thing, because I never understood what the index was for until this guy showed me, and the index went into the instance on points for the pick instance. Basically that's what the pick instance, you're distributing your instances on your points, and you pick your index with this system here. And then the index also goes to a map range, and then the map range goes to a Euler vector, and then with a random value, all of that connected to the rotation. And that's how you make your goddamn branches. And I didn't know that. It was so complicated to figure that out. It's not like something you can just know out of the top of your head. But maybe some people already learned what these are for. I'm just learning this right now. And it's just awesome that I'm learning this right now, man. Like, holy crap. You need to just erase things. So the good part about this is that, forgot to erase this. The cool part about this is because the node setup is procedural, and you have your tree, I'm able to generate more trees. Look at that. Completely different, extremely different, but similar feeling. Of course, some of the branches are kind of whack, so that's my major problem right now. I gotta fix the branches, probably because of the way I'm rotating them. The instances for the rotation are strange, so I gotta choose correctly how I want my instances. See the way they touch themselves? I don't like that. I mean, that kind of happens over here. Some of the branches do end up touching themselves, but nevertheless, to have this chaos, this orderly chaos that you can see with your eyes, probably because of the white background. Maybe if I turn this white, I don't know. Another cool part is that I'm able to change the direction of the way this tree follows. I'm able to change the points, like, hey, go this way, or hey, go that way. Or even like, hey, extrude this way. And keep on extruding. And follow me. You see how the branches evenly... But then you have issues where there's some naked areas, and that's where you gotta fix the indexes. So that's a problem with the index system, is that if your original, design looks like this, and you have certain indexes being picked, if you draw taller trees or smaller trees, it's going to depend on the pick instance system instead of following the overall shape. Which is, the overall shape is interesting, even though there's some flaws that should be fixed. Some of these branches are very chaotic, very curvy, jagged, symmetrical almost, but they always divide. 2, 5, 8, 1, 2, 3, 5. It's like a sequence. So my idea is like, oh, what if I just draw them, one by one? If I can just eyeball it. Let me see, if I can just eyeball it, right? Alright, so I got this main one. It goes like that. See, look, there's a floating branch here. Although the branch distribution is cool, it's perfect. I gotta fix the distributing branches. The distributing branches are bothering me a lot. They look very strange. So I gotta fix that. They gotta look exactly like the way I want it to look here. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna trace over it, see how that works. But for now, I'm going to add a texture on this project. I'm gonna open my other project. I have another tree, which is the original animation you watched earlier. I gotta just pull up the system and gotta make it work somehow. I'm gonna have to make it work. Let me get a sip of water. What am I doing? I have the project open already. So done. Alright. So basically the system that I want is another geometry node system from my first tree, which I'm too embarrassed to show because it's awful. It's an awful system. Can I lock this? I think I can lock this right here. Is this it? No, it's this one. I'm gonna lock this, and then I'm gonna go here. There you go. 2 different systems to create trees. If I were to show you this tree, you're gonna be like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that, Chris? What is that? Look at this crap. I got the trunk, and I kind of got desired curvy thingies. I wanted it to open up like the way this does. I couldn't figure out how to bend this thing, but here I have the system to help me do that. Now I was thinking like, oh, let me use old systems and just, but nah, I need to copy this. See this UV mapping? When it comes to procedural objects, Blender makes it impossible to just like, hey, I'm gonna add a material, and Blender's like, whoa, what the hell? This doesn't have UV mapping. It just trips out. This is a well-known thing to many 3D artists. Every time they want to texture their tree, they're like, sir, you don't recognize UV mappings on your tree. This is how it looks like. Let me turn it around. If you look it up close, it looks so weird. Like the way it stretches. The stretch thing it's annoying me so hard. So I'm trying to figure out why it looks like that. See these ragged things. So hopefully my new tree doesn't have that. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick while you stare at this cringe. But the branch system, I'm satisfied with it. Like I was like, wow, this is a pretty good branch system, sort of. I mean, you look at it about clothes and you're like, oh, what the hell is that? But not to worry, because the next branch system is exactly how I want it to be. I just gotta tweak it a little bit. I'll be right back. Sometimes I have this obsession with disinfecting my doorknobs. They're like the main things I always grab, so I always grab like some sort of disinfectant napkin or one of those disinfectant towels, and I just clean away. Also, how do you guys clean your screens? I don't think I use the best way of cleaning my computer screen. Very touchy. Somehow I'm still able to see like each thing. Let me turn on the fan system just in case my computer overheats. Alright. I want to at least get the texture done before I stop sculpting. Once I have this texture done, procedural tweaks won't be an issue. I already have the heavy stuff already made. Now I have to focus, or at least for now, focus on the texture. Because this texture thing right here, I'm looking at it now and I'm like, man, this setup that I make does not work. Maybe I'm not doing it right. I don't know. I have to figure it out. Lord, forgive me. Yeah. That was the worst. That was the worst. Alright. I want to make coffee, but I know it's going to fuck up my body. Every time I make coffee, I get pimples. So weird. So weird. Alright. So where were we? Oh yes, I need to copy the Gregory. What's strange about, geometry nodes is that I'm not able to copy an entire geometry node system and paste it somewhere else. Oh shit, I am? Damn, that's new. I wasn't able to do that before. Alright, so I have that after the joint geometry, so I'm gonna have to put this here. That goes into there. Back. And then this goes into here. Back. I'm gonna have to hide this thing. Bring on my other boy. My curved boy. Where is he? I don't see him. Oh, he's probably so small. Yeah, look how small that is. Oh wow, automatically it added all the texture. Now you see, here's the problem. What the hell is this? What am I looking at? It's got the colors, but it doesn't have the texture. And that is because I don't have any textures added to this thing. Absolutely none. Let me see. This is called Ponderosa. Ponderosa. Do I have another version? No. Let me see if it changes. Not at all, my friend. Dang. Why not? Why didn't it change? Why doesn't it have that? Oh crap, look how big that thing is. See, the thing about this texture is like, yeah, when you get up close, you're like, what the hell is this? Because it's not 4K. But when you get far, like this distance, and you're like, okay, that was cool. I see some moss here. That looks like a fungus. Little fungus here. I want to look at the wireframe. See, the wireframe system gets very complicated in some areas. Not at all, actually. It's just a bunch of triangles. So this had to be, this is a photo scan, but then the photo scan itself had to get desymmetrized or decimated and triangulated for video game purposes. But I mean, some areas are just like, what is that? Like, like they didn't even care about. And why is this? Okay, this is like something sticking up. The triangulation is interesting. And look at that, there's this wood-like curves. I want to get my wood to look exactly like that boss. But, let me go back. What's the issue here? Why does it look whack like that? Oh yes, I forgot. The geometry is not being captured. And I have a spiral here. And then where am I capturing here? Geometry? Spiral. This. This is the geometry that needs to get captured. Nothing happened. That's just crazy. What about this? Is it this right here that I got? Nope. Maybe this? Not at all. Oh. What the hell? Let me look at the other tree. What's so different about it? I don't think it's different at all. It's just stretched. It's freaking stretched. It just doesn't look good when you look at it closer. What the hell? I'm going to look at the shade editor. Maybe that's the issue. It's all connected with this capture attribute. But this is the ponderosa part, right? The crazy system. Crazy system to get this crappy texture, bro. Oh god. I mean, the crazy system is just to create these patches, but these lines are not it, bro. They're just not it. They're being stretched. What if I just cut this? Nope. How about this? Nothing happened. Nothing different. How about this? Not at all. Not at all. So maybe my texture setup is just the worst. And I'm thinking I had it right. Damn it. Let me go back to this other tree. I can't even see the bark, bro. What the hell? If I just cut this off. Okay, yeah, it turns off. So, yeah, okay, I need to capture attribute in the geometry. And the geometry here is this curve. It should be able to work, but it's not working. Why not? Turn it. Let me save in case it shuts down. Sometimes Blender is like that. Hey, let me shut down on you. Fuck. Alright. So this is an issue. I don't know why it's not working. Ooh, I don't like that weird. What the hell? Whatever, fix that later. Tell me why it's not working. Tell me why it's not working. Why it's not working. Trim curve, set pattern, sample. What am I missing? I know I had it right. Is it a height? Nope. Is it this thingy? You see, it's procedural, so it's following the order. For some reason, the textures are just like, I don't feel like working today. Oh, what the hell is this fact doing in there? Oh, I see the problem. What is this? Okay, this last one. Horrible order. Not at all, dude. Not working at all whatsoever. Ring a ding ding. I might have to watch the tutorial again. I thought I had it right. I thought it was gonna work. I'm gonna have to search something up real quick. Oh my god. Okay. To texture geometry. Okay, this guy explains things really fast. YouTuber, Default Cube. He tends to just talk so fast.
Again? Vacation.
Bro, like
Tomorrow. Let's pack.
on speed or something.
Hey there everybody and welcome back to another Blender tutorial.
It's not as
Today
fast
I'm going to
as
show you how to UV map procedurally.
What I really love
which means we don't
about
need
this
to actually make
YouTuber
our
is
own
that
UV
he's
map,
got
it's
like
going to make it on
Albert
the fly.
Einstein
So,
here.
in what kind of situation is this thing useful? Well, here you can see I have a brick texture, right?
True.
And if I try to extend this, like to
that
make another
sucks.
brick wall, you can see it's kind of stretching the very last pixel here. That applies to any edge that I pick. Right, this is an issue. And right now, yes, it's using generated coordinates, but the same issue exists with UV coordinates because it's this 2D coordinate system that isn't updating, right? So if I was to go into my UV map here, just so you understand the
geometry
problem,
notes is
this
freaking
space totally has a UV
two-dimensional
map.
plane.
This attribute, set it to a vector, because this is vector data, connect that, and give it a name. So I'm calling
UV on wrap. I don't have that on my system. Do I? No, I do not. Oh, I'm getting an issue right here. What's the issue? Unsupported mesh. What are you talking about, fam? Impossible. How is it an unsupported mesh? Dang it. Alright. Is it because the UV is completely different? Value, combine, capture attribute. I'm not sure this tutorial is the right one for me.
Hey, welcome to this new tutorial. In this tutorial we will look at how you can create UV maps inside of the Geometry Nodes editor, or how you can import your existing UV maps and also export them in in Nodes and plug it into the group output. And we want to do the group input node. For this, And we see we already have a UV map on our Susan monkey now viewed onto our out. And click, we see because the islands if
This is not what I want to see, bro. This is probably it right here.
Hi, this is Manuel with Entagma, and today I present you
another
a
YouTuber who I always watch for geometry notes. He makes really cool stuff.
quick tip about Blender 3.3 Alpha, because recently they added UV unwrapping to geometry nodes. This means you are now able to do procedural UV unwrapping, and that is a long-awaited feature, so let me quickly show you how this works. So let's dive into Blender 3.3 Alpha, and let's get started. To have something to UV unwrap, let's build some procedural rocks first. Select everything, delete everything, and now let's start with a plane.
The classic. Select everything, delete everything. Step 1. Select everything, delete. I'm just kidding. I just gotta understand how those other geometry nodes. This fella did it. You smell, fella. Oh crap! I deleted it. Okay, let me just. And then over here, let me just go back to my Bezier. Look how complicated this damn tree is. Alright, so this geometry comes from the joint geometry of the mesh. The trunk. Where's the mesh? I'm thinking that was the mesh. But this is the instance. But I'm thinking that's correct, right? That goes into the joint geometry of the capture attributes. So there shouldn't be a problem when I put this here. And then the capture attribute of all the instances, I guess. Okay, I'm not getting a problem. Hopefully I don't get a problem. Nope, I got a problem. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. That doesn't change nothing. Okay, so I can't put instances in there. I got that. Curve to mesh. This goes here, mesh. I believe this goes here. Please let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Is it B? It's not being. And I still get that crazy message. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. What am I doing wrong? I thought I had it right. Curve to radius. Curve to radius mesh. Merge by distance. But it's true, this should go here. Because this is the entirety of it all. Unsupported type mesh. Curve to mesh. And then it's starting to piss me off. It looks good though. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I have to go watch that tutorial from that other guy. How is it not working? It should be working. Is it the node system? Is it because it's another? Let's see the UBs, UB. I think that's in the textures, right? finish by tomorrow, dude. I'm having a hard time. I forget what the UV stuff is. Is it here? Nope. Could be. Texture space? Why are you not supporting my crap, bro? I mean, it's literally... It's the same. It's exactly the same. Why is it not working? And why is it an unsupported mesh? Is it because this instance is connected to it? Nope. I mean, it's kind of working, but the actual texture is not. I'm gonna put this back where it was. Disconnect it all. And connect this back here. Crap. Alright. Why is it not working? Well, that's because the spiral thingy is not connected to nothing at all. Why am I getting this issue? So strange, so strange. What if I go back to color? Nothing changes. This is gonna be a pain in the ass.
Let's call it rock, like so, and the vector 3.5, which is to use a second noise texture. Instead of geometry as a volume, this comes shape, which looks quite interesting. Now, the problem with these shapes is that you don't have UVs on them up until now, because now inside of Blender you can create UVs procedurally. So let's do this using a second geometry nodes tree that comes after the smooth. So let's create a new geometry nodes tree, down here a new tree, and call this UVs, like so. Because of the stack nature of this, as a smooth geometry comes in.
I'm starting to remember what I'm doing wrong. Do I have a second geometry node here? No. So maybe that's the issue.
in over the geometry port and we can just work with it. And we want to use the new UV.
Okay, maybe it would work now. I'm going to add geometry nodes. I'm going to call it UVs. Maybe this is the best solution.
Unwrap. No. You can see this node takes a seam selection or a polygon selection, then does the standard Blender UV unwrapping and writes out the result as UV vectors. But before we can use this node, we have to think about how to create seams procedurally, because this is not meant to be used with a standard workflow of painting seams on the geometry. Instead, we have to come up with a measure to create seams. If you use it without seams, nothing will happen. So I want to base my seam generation on normals. For this, I will need a normal node, and I want to split the normal into its components by using a separate XYZ. I want to base my seam generation on the X component. I just want to lay down a compare node, and I want to compare the X component if it is greater than or equal than 0. That effectively gives me two sides. The side where the normal is pointing in the plus X direction and the side that is pointing in the minus X direction. And now I want to split my mesh up based on this Boolean here. So let's lay down a delete geometry here and connect this value here. And you see that is everything that is pointing in the minus X direction. And if I invert this by just laying down a math and then subtract 1 minus a selection, that effectively inverts a selection, like so.
Oh, I guess that is real. Holy crap, it deleted everything. Whoa. It came back.
Oh, you can see we
Interesting. Alright. Greater than or equal to float. Maybe this would work better than my previous setup.
we have the other part. Now I want to split the mesh in two parts and then UV unwrap them and then put the mesh back together. So let's duplicate this delete geometry node, and for the first one I want to use a Boolean directly. For the second one I want to use the inverted selection. And after that I can now use a delete geometry node, and for the first one I want to use a Boolean directly. For the second one, I want to use the inverted selection. And after that, I can now use join geometry to put the two pieces
together.
back together, but now they are distinct, like so. Don't forget to connect your geometry here, and now you have two parts. The part that is oriented along the plus x-axis and the part that is oriented.
Crap, it did it for everything. This is amazing. It's automatically UV unwrapped. Look at it. There's a line in every branch. It's going to be seamless. You won't even know that it's split even. But I gotta figure out why there's a gap.
Along the minus x-axis. To fix these artifacts here, let's just switch the delete node from point to face. And we have...
No way. Is it really that easy? Oh my gosh, it is. No way. Boko Friday. Got that Boko fried? Fried Boko? Fried chicken? It's been years since I eaten fried chicken, bro. Kind of miss that shit. Alright.
Have our entire object back. But it is still two parts, so the points at the border are overlapping. And now we can use the UV unwrap. But before we do this, we want to make sure to use a material that can actually use the UV unwrap. So let's go to the shader editor for now, and let's quickly create a new material. I will call it my UV, just to remember what this is for. And now I want to create an image texture. And for the image texture, I want to create one of these typical color grids, and I connect it here. And now comes the thing, you are not able to write to the UV.
Let's test that right now. I'm going to test it. Instead of using my material, I'm going to use another one. Shader editor. New. Why are you still there, bro? Bro, what? Is this? What? Is it because, okay, I had that little thumbnail. Okay. Image texture. Wait, how did he make that?
And for the image texture, I want to create one of these typical color.
Okay. Yeah, for the image texture, when I create one of them typical. Wait, typical what?
Grids, and I connect it here. For the image texture, I want to create
color grid. That's cool. Put that here. All right.
One of these typical color grids, and I connect it here. And now comes the thing, you are not able to write to the UV map of the object directly, because this is procedural geometry. So we want to use an attribute instead. So let's prepare this by laying down an attribute node.
Yes,
and let's read an attribute that is not existing yet, called myUVs, like so. And this will be a vector, and that's connected here to the sampling vector of this texture. And by the way, switch to viewport shading to be able to see the texture. Back to geometry nodes. Now first we want to apply, and that's connected here to the sampling vector of.
Okay, let me share. Okay, what are you using? The vector, obviously, because we're dealing with vectors. I'm gonna ask Copilot, like, yo, what the hell's a vector? I know what it is. I remember hearing about it in high school, but let me see. All the things. I know a vector can mean a lot of things. A vector is an essential mathematical concept that combines both magnitude and direction. Magnitude. What is that? Magnitude, as in like distance or like frequency? Direction, obviously. Up, down, left, right. Geometrically, you can think of a vector as a directed line segment. A little arrow that points from one location to the other. Here are some key points about vectors. Magnitude. The magnitude of a vector represents its length or size. Size as in thickness. I mean, you have length, which is obviously the size, but then like size or length are pretty much the same thing. I mean, length is depending on the two-dimensional. If it's a vector, then it's a two-dimensional thing, and length should be from 0 to 1, and then all the decimals in between. And then the size would be its entire mass, I'm assuming. Imagine you can have a vector representing the velocity of a moving object. The magnitude of that vector would indicate the speed of the object. Velocity and speed. We denote the magnitude of a vector as, I don't even know what that means. Brackets, 8 brackets, direction. The direction of a vector tells us where it is pointing. So the magnitude is its speed. The direction is obviously where it's pointing. For instance, if you're pushing a box, the force you apply is a vector with a specific direction. The tail and the head, terminal point, initial point. Notation. Oh, that's notation, A notation. Notation, when we write vectors, we often use the boldface letters like A or B. If you're writing by hand and can't easily make bold letters, you might see vectors denoted as arrows. But for our conversation, we'll stick to plain boldface notation. Yeah, boldface, these little thingies. These are called boldfaces. Zero vector. This is a special vector called zero vector, denoted as 0. It has a 0 length, no specific direction, essentially like a null vector. Operations on vectors, you can subtract, add scale vectors, for example. Vector addition, true that. Scalar multiplication, you can multiply the vector. I remember learning about this in trigonometry, but damn, I was awful at that class. I think I passed with a -B. And then I remember there was this girl in the class. She was really good at just answering the entire like radian system. You know how you can turn radians into degrees, and that comes with some sort of like graph where you have to memorize all the angles. She knew it by heart, and once I got to know her, she tells me it was her 3rd time taking the class, and that's why she knew all the answers. And that was insane to me. Like 3rd time taking the class, bro. That's 3rd time's the charm, I guess. I never retaken a class. That's crazy. I went to summer school once, but I never retaken a class. Velocity, the force, and the displacement. I think that's important for a vector. Vector displacement, if you want to move from point A to point B, the displacement vector points from point A to B. Remember, the fundamental vectors in physics, engineering, computer graphics, and many other fields, they allow us to describe quantities that involve size and direction. Size and direction. Vectors are size and direction. And the size or direction of my generated grid is going to the base color of this principal BSDF, and it's going to be connected into the output. And this is going to be called test material, test. And I'm assuming I'm going to be adding a set material here. Put it right here. Pull up test. Alright, cool. But I don't see the grid. And that's a problem. Oh, because I don't have the UV unwrap connected. So I'm assuming the selection goes in here. Nope. Alright, let me not get ahead of myself.
This texture. And by the way, switch to viewport shading to be able to see the texture. Back to geometry nodes. Now first we want to apply this material by putting down a set material node at the very end, my UV. And now we want to write this attribute. And that is easy. We can just drag the UV to one of these hollow ports here, and that writes the attribute.
Alright. I did not know that. I could have never assumed that. It's not intuitive. That's the thing about this program. It's not an intuitive program. It's not like Photoshop. You think of something and then you have it right in front of you and you're like, okay, so easy. But when it comes to these programs, it's so convoluted. It burns your eyes. Do I have a... Oh yeah, I do. I remember animating something.
Attribute. But before it works, we want to go here and to the output attribute of our set.
Oh, that makes sense. Outputs. What do I call it? My UVs. Capital S. It worked. Holy crap, it worked. Holy crap, look at that. It is perfectly seamless UV unwrapped. No errors. Oh, this is going to be awesome.
find geometry node 3 and call this my UVs, because that is the attribute that the shader graph is expecting. And you see immediately it is working. Now you get automatic UVs because the geometry is first split, then one part is unwrapped and the second part is unwrapped, and the UVs are set and we are using them in the shader. The thing is that the points are still double here. So let's just put down a merge by distance node to put the object back together.
Of course. I forget about that last thing, merge by distance. Wait, where am I putting it?
And put it here.
Of course, put it there. I know I have to be walking like a baby when I gotta do these things. I can't see the difference. Let me see. Let me get closer. Closer. Very hard to tell because there's a lot of stuff going on. Alright. Oh, something happened. Oh, something horrible happened. Okay, I don't think I want to use that merge by distance. Or maybe I do. This looks like it's a main. I mean, oh, maybe I gotta change the distance? No, not at all.
But oh no, what happened? As soon as we do this, everything vanishes. And this has to do with the way that geometry node is executed. Because the scope of a node is always determined by the node that it is connected to. So the scope of the UV unwrap is determined by this group output. And before we used the merge by distance, that meant that each point got a UV value. And then these UV values were converted to the domain of face corner because UVs are stored in the face corner domain and everything worked. But now that we put the merge here, we don't have any seams anymore and the UV unwrap cannot work. So we have to make sure that the UV unwrap is executed before the merge. And fortunately we can do this inside of geometry nodes by using a capture attribute. The capture attribute is there for exactly this purpose. It allows you to specify where to execute a node. So let's take this capture attribute and put it here before the merge by distance and set the domain from point to face corner because face corner is a correct domain for UVs. Now set the attribute that we want to create to vector and connect to the UV unwrap here. This node evaluates the UV unwrap inside of the face corner domain on the geometry that is still split apart. And if we now connect the output of this to our UV, it will work again.
Oh, cool, cool. It looks better actually. There's this weird thing here that we're probably gonna end up missing.
But we get some ugly interpolation around the edges, as you can see here. And that is because the attribute that we created here is still in the point domain. But as I told you, UVs are used in the face corner domain. So the very last step to perform is to go to the end panel and then to...
This is possibly the coolest tutorial I've ever seen. I gotta share this. Oh yeah, guys, add me on LinkedIn if you want. Damn, completely butchered my text. Butchered it. Luckily I got Grammarly to fix that. Got a message from the director. Hi everyone, I hope you had a great weekend. On Notion, I shared a mood board. I created the life of trees identity. And it'll be under the create graphics task. I only come up with variations, so let me know if you use Adobe Illustrator like AI file to incorporate. Oh, okay, that was Jonah. I always have a hard time picking a professional emoji. Sometimes you just don't want to send strange emojis. Nope, the emoji looks way too sassy. Robots? Nope, not robots. Maybe a thought bubble? A little dashing away? A little bit of that. Alright, cool. Alright, I have to leave a message to the crew. Got my thing going. So far, so good. We actually successfully UV unwrapped the entire tree. And I imagine back in the old days, they used to grab each branch one by one and unwrap them, even the smallest ones. That's a crazy process. I'm still getting that interpolation here, but I believe it doesn't even matter because it's so small. People are not going to be looking at that close. Plus, the main influence is having the main trunks UV unwrapped seamlessly, and it looks like they are. I mean, there's a little bit of interpolation still. God damn it. Did I not do it right?
To the group tab here and switch the attribute domain for the UV output attribute from is still in the point domain. But as I told you, UVs are used in the face corner domain. So the very last step to perform is to go to the end panel and then
okay, the end panel. Then go to the group properties. Nope. UVs, vector. No, the attribute face corner. There we go. Bam, fixed.
to the Group tab here and switch the attribute domain for the UV output attribute from point to face corner. Now it stores the data in the right form and it outputs it to my UVs and the shader can read it. And this way you can create procedural UV unwrapping for your assets file. And this is of course very simple. You can come up with a different heuristic
oh my God, I can't wait to upload this to my profile. It's gonna be awesome. All right, second bathroom break. Let's continue. I'm getting a little chilly. And it's getting dark. And I don't know where my sweater is. Where's my favorite sweater? What the hell? Oh, here it is. Alright, I'm back in the game.
Determining where to put the individual seams, but for now this will work. And if you go to our first rock generated tree, you can create different rock by putting in a different number, and not only will it generate a new rock, but it will generate a new UV map too. And for rocks, this is probably sufficient. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. And with this, it is cheers and goodbye. If you like what we are doing, please consider becoming a Patreon. Not only for supporting Entagma, but for access to in-depth courses on topics such as particles, vellum, geometry nodes, and so on and so forth. And at this point, let me say thank you so much to all our existing Patreons.
All right, so that takes care of that. So let me go back to some music.
If you're a creative woman who wants to have an impact and help people with art,
Damn,
but you...
that woman. If only I was a creative woman. Alright, so I have the entire tree unwrapped perfectly, seamlessly, and without any interpolations. Let me check it out. Look at the smallest branches. Even the smallest branches are interpolated. Like, that's amazing, bro. Like, I mean, that kind of looks strange right there, but it's supposed to be like perfectly like UV. I mean, shit, man. It's close enough. There seems to be some stretching over here. Maybe not. It looks good to me. Look at that. That's crazy. That's magical. Magical as hell. Let me save this. Now, I can finally add my textures. This is my test. So what's the difference? The difference is all I need is this little attribute thingy. And I'm just gonna put it in here. already have the node system. All I have to do is just add this into that. That should be good to go. I wonder if there's a faster way of... Yeah. Vector. Remember, we're doing vectors. Vectors. Get used to it. Get used to the idea that we're doing vectors. Yes, sir. Alright. I know there's a faster way of connecting these, but I don't feel like finding the shortcut right now. Computer's making noises. It's like, what is up with all these textures, brother? Like, relax. Now, I hope to God, the second I delete this, it should work. It should work. I'm gonna save it right now just in case. And I'm going to delete it. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? Am I missing something? No, right? No. I got my vector. Connected to everything. Everything's connected. I'm gonna take this out and put it over here. Oh, obviously. I'm so dumb. I gotta go back to the geometry notes. Should obviously stay in the shader editor. Put a thumbnail in that bit. Bam. Go back here. Go back to the other geometry notes. Well, bap. Delete the crap out of this because you don't need it. But what you did need was this. I forget how to take out. Oh, this is gonna be a magical moment, guys. This is gonna be a magical moment. I hope this works. I hope this works. What? It's not working. What's going on? It's not working. Why is it not working? I got my textures. I got everything connected. Is it because I have these other things that are not meant to be there? Think. Why aren't my textures being connected? Go back to the... Go back to the geometry. It's gonna put it on top. Oh, yes. Oh, but I'm lagging. I'm lagging horribly. Nope. Okay. Tell me why it's not working. Tell me. What else am I missing? Look at that. Holy crap. It's slowing the crap out of my computer, but whatever. Let's check out the render version. Bro, that's amazing. Look at that. Holy shit. Wow. I got the crazy details. Got the trunk ready to go. Save this immediately. Wow, no way, I did it. I defeated the UV boss. You guys ever heard of Hugo Boss? Look at that. Maybe I gotta change the height. Makes no difference. I gotta add the leaves. That's another thing I gotta do, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know where to start. I wish I can control all of them. Maybe I can. Just need to know how. There's multiple curves, yeah. I'm controlling multiple curves, but they all share one main point at the last vector. Maybe if I instance the same curve, but they share a common. Another thing that I also want to do with the roots. I don't know how to make roots. I gotta figure that out. How do I continue making roots? I gotta use the shortest path. That means I will have to put like a cube here so I can follow the path. But then how will the cube be connected to the point? The last point, right? It has to be the last point. This is so amazing. What the hell is that? Is that a little gap? Okay. It's kind of bothering me though. There's some areas that are like kind of trippy looking. I'm sure once I bake it, I can fix these things. And then rebake it again. I can't sleep with this music. It's just boring as fuck. Come on, bro. Put something more exciting. Something that keeps my pump going. You know what I'm saying? What about this? An astronomer's great library.
Sometimes your day feels like. That's why Amex Gold and Dunkin' came together to bring.
I mean, if my library looked like that, the library looked like that, like some ancient place. Uh-oh. Let's watch what
Hello,
Mudahar
guys
has to
and
say.
gals. Me, Mudahar, and
Mudahar is another YouTuber. This is hilarious, you know. He talks about internet stuff and some companies that go under and then they do very strange things. Listen to this guy while I go and make something to eat because I am starving. My stomach is about to implode.
ladies and gentlemen, today we got to talk about Intel and how that ship is burning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't take extreme pleasure in doing this, but to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, when I built my ultimate Billy rig, some of the content that I've made in the last few years has been about, building my Linux virtual machine rig, okay? So whether it be my dream computer or showing you how to build Linux virtual machine, like gaming systems, where you can literally play full-on PC games in a virtual machine underneath the Linux kernel. And that's all thanks to things like passing through GPUs, right? So you could literally pass through a GPU, split a GPU in half, do whatever you want. Now, alongside that, I've always required having a pretty good processor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this screen right over here that you've probably seen in videos, if I get the mic out of the way a little bit, you can see this is like a task manager for my system. This whole section right here is threads. Basically, threads that I've got on my systems, the amount of cores I'm sitting with. Now, the processor I bought was a Ryzen 9 5950X, about, I would say, honestly, like a few years ago at this point. And I paid around $800 on launch, okay? Today we're talking about an Intel processor that is so bad that it's been causing people to crash their video games for a year now. And you know how much that cost? $800 as well right now. In fact, that's on a sale. It's usually $1,000. Now, if you're buying a processor like this, you're probably what we consider an enthusiast. You're somebody like me who loves virtual machines maybe, who loves emulating PS3 games, and you need that raw dog CPU performance, right? If you're the average gamer who wants to play some Fortnite, some Warzone, this is a lot overkill for you, okay? So to give an idea, I build these virtual machine systems. I enjoy them. I stuck with AMD. And honestly, I even asked the question like a couple months ago, is there a reason to buy an Intel CPU at this point? And it really feels like it isn't. So obviously, if you've noticed, if you're in the market of investing, you probably noticed that Intel's stock has dropped pretty significantly in the last couple days, okay? It used to be trading at $30. Now it's dropped to $21.48. Now, stock prices are one of those fickle things where obviously, they go down for a bit, but they always bounce back up, usually. In this situation, it doesn't really seem that way, because Intel has had a pretty rough time so far. Literally a couple days ago, apparently they had to slash 15,000 jobs just to keep up with their competitors in the space, NVIDIA and AMD. So 15,000 jobs, obviously, it's not looking good at the company. And they need to cut costs by like $10 billion in 2025. That is obviously a goal that they hope to be reaching. And when I'm making this video, when I hear 15,000 people have been cut from their jobs, I'm thinking 15,000 people that would love to talk about how fucked up shit is going on at Intel. So, to give you an idea of how bad this situation is, right? Those specific processors that I was telling you, this is a game company, Alderaan Games, literally throwing Intel under the bus. Literally, they titled this entire post, Intel is selling defective 13th, 14th generation CPUs. When anybody writes something like this, that is scathingly bad. So what they said is their team at Alderaan Games, who's working on this multiplayer dinosaur survival game, Path of Titans, has been encountering significant problems with Intel CPU stability. These issues include crashes, instability, and memory corruption, are confined to a 13th and 14th generation processors. Despite all the released microcode, BIOS, and updates, the problem remains unsolved. So they've identified 5 main areas. For the end customer, meaning you and me with our actual finished systems here, thousands of crashes on those specific CPUs. If you're running dedicated game servers, constant crashes and servers are going down. Are you a development team? Well, congratulations. While you're developing a game, you might have it completely crash while building or working on the game, making you lose precious time. Game service providers, hosting community servers, you're going to be crashing if your servers are running on those specific processors. Benchmarking tools, yeah, those could also apparently fail. So obviously, when you're reading something like this, clearly it's not a good look for Intel. And at least for this company, what they've basically said is they're swapping all of their servers to AMD, which experience 100 times fewer crashes compared to Intel CPUs that were found to be defective. So yeah, this is really, really bad. Obviously, it shouldn't shock anybody that this company isn't exactly on board. Now, when I started this video, I said, oh boy, this was mentioned about a year ago. Now, thanks to the lads over at WCCF Tech, they were the ones who made a pretty decent timeline that goes all the way back to December 2022 that covers all this bullshit right out. So how this first was effectively discovered is back in December 2022 on the Fortnite Battle Royale subreddit, one user mentioned this bug. They had an Epic Game System, Windows 11 Home, 32GB RAM, RTX 4090 Founders Edition, and mind you, I was considering purchasing this processor when I was upgrading my GPU in the Billy rig to the 4090. I'm actually glad I didn't. 3 Z790E Asus ROG Strix motherboard tried to verify game. So they got this error. Out of video memory trying to allocate a rendering resource. Make sure your video card has the minimum required memory. Try lowering the resolution and or closing other applications that are running or exiting. Now you might be like, wait, how does this have anything to do with the CPU, Mutahart? It's a video graphic memory error, right? Obviously it has something to do with the GPU. Wait with me. Bear with me right now. Let's go down to 2023. So in 2023, one of the, big time releases were releasing games like Hogwarts Legacy, a lot of these CPU intensive titles. One post from r/PC Gaming Tech Support ended up basically listing that they had this i9 14900K CPU, 24 cores, RAM at 32, RTX 4090, pretty powerful rig. It's almost on par with my system. Obviously my CPU, Ryzen 9 5950X, a little bit older than this, but let's get back to it. When they tested 4 games, the Outlast Trials, the Finals, Red Dead 2, and Counter-Strike 2, they would sometimes get this out-of-video memory pop-up, right? So this is pretty common, especially even with these Unreal Engine games as well. So sometime in February of 2024, one user, Sebastian Castellanos, ended up basically saying that certain games running with Unreal Engine showed that during the shader compilation process, so typically nowadays when you're firing up recent modern games, you probably might see a screen that says, pre-calculating shaders or optimizing shaders or something to do with shaders. What that basically means is your CPU is going to be running at like 100%, basically calculating all of the shaders you are going to see in that specific video game for the first time. So that instead of facing micro stutters as you play, the game should in theory be a smooth sail all the way from the new game selection to the credit screen. So during this time, it appeared that individuals with that i9 processor, the 13900K and the i7 13700K, you had to underclock your processor because apparently these specific CPUs were prone to crashes. Players have been able to work around this by underclocking the performance core speed. So you have to actually reduce the overall speed of your processor, it seemed, in order for it to function. The stability was kicking its ass. So WCCF's editor at this point, Hassan Mujtaba, actually even said that when they built a new gaming PC with the 4090 launch, they upgraded the 12900K to a 13900K, and everything ran well besides the high temperatures that were within the TJ Maxx limit, but hit 95 degrees Celsius using a high-end cooler. Now, what they basically mean with TJ Maxx is when you're running a processor like this and it gets to that thermal junction point, like 95 degrees or 100 degrees, what the CPU will do will automatically reduce its performance in order to prevent damage. You typically shouldn't be reaching that temperature if you have a good cooling solution. That's just a lot of power being sent to a CPU and a lot of it temperature rising through the ashes, basically. And you should never be getting close to that, okay? If you're touching those temperatures, you need to be better cooling your CPU. So obviously, look, after all of this, it really came down to these graphic card companies. They had to come out and basically say, it's not our fault. Our GPUs weren't to blame. It was actually more the CPU. According to the NVIDIA guys over here, Manuel at NVIDIA, what they had said was if your system is using an Intel 13th or 14th generation unlocked desktop CPU and is experiencing stability issues, out of video memory error messages, crashes to desktop while the game is compiling shaders, please consult the following sites for troubleshooting assistance. And they started to link to the Intel community right here. And here you can see a whole bunch of actual users complain about those similar issues, all in Intel's camp. The reason I'm showing this again to you is to show you that this timeline of Intel's ignorance was happening for over a year, all right? This was never an okay situation. So obviously, after NVIDIA decided to throw them under the bus, rightfully so, Intel actually ended up coming out and basically saying, yeah, we're kind of looking into it. Obviously, they had to. So what had happened was after NVIDIA obviously rightfully threw them under the bus, clearly they had to respond. And so what happened was to the Korean market at the time, all right, they ended up reporting to ZDNet Korea, Intel is aware of the problems that arise when running certain tasks, like shader compilation, on a 13th, 14th generation core processor for desktop PC and analyzes them with major stakeholders. So now at this point, they clearly acknowledge an issue that they were selling very openly for no problem whatsoever, okay? Shady shit already right there. And at this moment in time, they started to actually rely on sending out updates. So what was actually apparently causing this issue? Well, what they had basically said was something known as the Enhanced Thermal Velocity Boost, the ETVB. Their algorithm was actually impacting the operating conditions for those specific processors. And they were basically developing a patch for that specific bug and working with motherboard partners to roll that out as quickly as they possibly could. It is not the root cause of the instability issues. As Intel and its partners continue working towards a conclusion, we want to make sure everyone is clear to basically get those default power settings. So yeah, it still wasn't entirely solved, but what was basically going on was microcode updates being pushed. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what a microcode update is, let me just give you a quick reminder and a quick little knowledge of it. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what a microcode update is, from time to time, Intel, AMD, or anybody that makes processors release actual stability and security updates to the processor's actual microcode, right? So what they do is they provide bug fixes, and again, they can basically give you critical updates and, stability to updated processors. So for instance, if you upgrade to a newer generation, or you upgrade your motherboard, you probably want to update the BIOS and the microcode so you don't run into issues. Like, for instance, your entire system blue screens, kernel panic, so on and so forth. You need to make sure you're updating your microcode. And what Intel was doing was providing the most up-to-date microcode that they could to fix as many of these issues as they had. So where it gets really fucked up is back in July of literally this year, one individual from the Hardware Times and editor said that after 3 faulty CPUs and 2 RMAs, Intel actually refused to refund one of these processors, even though that they were less than a month old. So according to the actual editor from the Hardware Times, they said that after that ETVB fix, they were crashing every other minute, were basically the highlight of their launch. And according to the event viewer in Windows, they had found 44,000 plus error events, okay? No joke, it looked pretty bad down the road here. Literally every minute, within the minute, there would be several of these errors that would just pop up. And so when they contacted Intel support for it, they basically said, yeah, we tried to reach out to you at insert whatever. Unfortunately, we couldn't reach you. We got an update from the concerned team. We understand how disappointing this situation must be for you. While we have gone above and beyond Intel's terms and conditions by providing a replacement unit, we regret to inform you, and this is the kicker, that we are unable to proceed with your request for a refund. Please consider this final reply. Dog, you are shipping defective fucking products, okay? People are spending hundreds of dollars on just your thing. There are people that could buy consoles, both consoles, for less than the price of this one fucking CPU. And you're still willing to fist them like this? Obviously, you should be providing a refund or fixing the product until it actually works. What do you mean you went above and beyond? The problem is still there. What the fuck? So at this moment in time, one of the things that came up was obviously Gamers Nexus. They ended up bringing in actual, claim with oxidation. They wanted to talk about the new microcode. And really it was because of Steve and his no-nonsense fucking attitude at Gamers Nexus that the situation really has blown up to the point that it has. And obviously Wendell from Level 1 Techs, a lot of people in the tech space that use these CPUs, I do, when I need to run these crazy virtual machine rigs, we want to make sure these systems are fucking stable. And for the price that you're willing to pay for them, they better be as stable as fuck. Okay, that's just the reality. Obviously, I can understand if, people go out of their way to overclock the hell out of these systems, but even people purchasing these processors and running them at a baseline level, we're facing massive problems. So obviously, Intel was pretty much ignoring this, and I would say they ignored this from my understanding until obviously very recently. Now, the thing about Intel is they could probably ignore this and it wouldn't really matter. But obviously when their stock starts to tank and you got the investors crawling up your ass, then, there are other issues that kick in. Like, for instance, a class action lawsuit investigation. So on July 30th, 2024, consumers who purchased that Intel processor line who are experiencing instability issues can join this class action investigation, right? So what they had said was recent reports have highlighted instability issues. The primary cause of these instabilities has been identified as elevated operating voltages. Intel's analysis revealed that a microcode algorithm was incorrectly requesting higher voltages, leading to instability in the processors. The issue apparently does not stem from the earlier resolved via oxidation problem in their manufacturing process. So realistically, what they're alleging is the problem started right from the software in their system. Now at this point, other crazy articles were getting posted out. So The Verge posted this one that said, there is no fix for Intel's crashing 13th and 14th gen CPUs. Any damage is permanent. And I want to remind you, when you're spending this kind of money on computer hardware, you don't want to hear damage is permanent, okay? So according to Intel over here, they had really shitty responses, okay? So for instance, will Intel issue a recall? No.
Wow.
My biggest concern when I was thinking of getting Botox Cosmetic was
losing my expression. I wanted to stay hobby and stay me.
The doctor did great at explaining that the treatment plan for me was what I needed.
So I got treated on my forehead,
my crow's feet, and my frown lines. I'm so happy with the results.
My results are subtle.
I'm still myself.
Just a fewer lines.
Talk to your doctor about Botox Cosmetic and whether it's right for you. The effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Learn more at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Even though they should. Will Intel proactively warn the buyers of these chips about the warning signs or that an update is required? So what they said is Intel targets to release a production update to the OEM and will share additional details with patches at the time. They're also investigating options to easily identify affected processors on end-user systems. In the interim, as a general best practice, Intel recommends that users adhere to the Intel default settings on their desktop processors. But it's those default settings that appear to also be causing the issues. Like, you know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. If you bought a processor and you purposefully jacked it up, you purposefully overclocked it to cause instability and damage, well, that's on you. But if it ships in a damaging state. What the fuck? And then, of course, will they halt those sales? No, they literally said no. They won't even perform any in-channel inventory recalls. Now, look, any company can have an issue or a defect whatsoever. That's not the story. That's not the outrage. The outrage is the shitty response that Intel has fucking had, where they are sticking their heads in the sand and letting people purchase these super expensive processors and ultimately leaving them with bricks in their hand, especially when it comes to people using these processors for the intended reasons, right? You're not buying this processor to browse the internet, okay? If you wanted to do that, your cell phone is plenty capable enough. People buying this processor are probably individuals that want to play the most high-end video games. Well, they're having issues. Imagine if you're a content creator where you obviously need to be using some really high-end software. You're probably going to be running into issues as well. So if you're working on production systems, writing code, running multiple virtual machines like I do all the time, then if your processor isn't going up to snuff, or if actually under load it starts to crack, then yes, that is a defective processor for the intended market out there. And Intel being as shitty as they are, this is obviously a sign that in the near future, or the future in general, I probably will never actually ever buy an Intel processor again. I think with AMD, it's pretty much solidified as the x86 processor of choice. But yeah, I know this video has been kind of dry, but to be honest with you, I wanted to really talk about it because this kind of a response from a massive company is honestly more than just insulting. I think it's straight up downright criminal at this point. And, you know, going in forward, I don't know what the future of a company like Intel really is, when at the end of the day, when it comes to processors, I think the market's kind of shifting in a way where, especially if you're on a laptop market, if you're somebody who's purchasing a laptop in 2024, you probably may never choose to buy an x86 based laptop unless you want to specifically play certain games. For instance, I've been using a MacBook Pro for the better part of two and a half years, and I would say it's probably the best laptop that I've bought, okay? It serves as a pretty good desktop replacement at this point with the M-series processors. Snapdragon Elite processors came out, and while they have issues, it's definitely not on the same level as where Intel is at. When it comes to this high-end processor market, the AMD processors that I am using seem to obviously provide a lot more stability. Even to somebody that is a chronic Linux user, and has been for years, it's obviously better for me to be using AMD processors simply because of how well integrated the software, the microcode, and updates are right into the kernel itself. But regardless of what you use, Linux or Windows, if your choice was to use an Intel processor and you spent this kind of money, Intel is leaving you out to dry with its most expensive product line out there. It's not like this is a manufacturing defect in an entry-level product line that maybe some could understand. This is in the highest-end enthusiast lineup. And that is just downright insulting, because those are the kind of people that are going to spread the worst possible message, rightfully so, about your company. So yeah, fuck Intel, it's imploding. And to be honest, I don't really see them coming back from this, unless they really get their shit together. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.
He was mad.
Mark your calendars this summer because FanDuel has something for everyone every day.
Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and this Mr. Beast stuff is kind of a roller coaster, to be honest. But this is something that's been of great interest to me for the last, I want to say, week since it's been happening. And you might be like, well, Muta, what is new about this? Well, today we are talking about lawsuits, cease and desists. You know, when the lawyers get involved, that's when things get really, really freaky. And boy, do I know a fair bit about that from my own personal time on YouTube. But to give you an idea and context, basically the last time we looked at this Mr. Beast stuff, there was some serious allegations being made from one of the whistleblowers, Dogpack404, when it came to, one of the largest YouTubers in the game, and the possibility of illegal lotteries, and the terrible onset allegations of, conditions with the Amazon Prime show that they're doing, the Beast games, where, apparently people aren't being fed, taken care of, or really anything is right. The implications that the game shows that are being hosted, the competitions, could potentially be rigged, which brings actual legal case law into the mix as well when we start to see how this stuff is treated in the grand scheme of things, right? When the law is brought in. Now, before anybody goes like, oh, this is just drama for drama's sake. I want to just kind of reiterate, when things like illegality are brought on board, when, people's, safety is questioned, that's not drama. That's criminality we're discussing. That is possibly illegal behavior. And that's something that I am very much interested to see how the response comes from. Now, since then, Mr. Beast really hasn't responded. Who knows? He might just respond literally an hour after this video is posted. But to give you a quick idea and context, Dogpack404 basically shot out this little notion right here. A cease and desist final warning. Emoji, I would assume, was definitely not included by the lawyer. So here he basically shares, hey, dear Mr. Dogpack404, this firm has recently been retained by Mr. Beast YouTube LLC and its founder, Jimmy Donaldson, regarding the unsettling news that you have embarked on a campaign to disparage Mr. Beast as a company and defame Jimmy Donaldson as an individual. Not only are your statements about Mr. Beast and Jimmy Donaldson untrue, they also violate the clear, binding, enforceable terms of your confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements with Mr. Beast dated March 25th, 2024, which you have shown in videos posted on the internet. Now, this was one actual thing that I saw. The other thing that I saw posted was from Internet Anarchist, who basically shared this cease and desist letter. Immediate action required. Dear Mr. Blank, McGuire Woods LLP represents your former employer, Mr. Beast YouTube LLC. I am writing to you regarding your recent troubling conduct following your involuntary termination. So yeah, according to one of the journalists that I've talked to, Stephen A. Sarge, he basically said that McGuire Woods is actually the law firm that Mr. Beast is using for the third-party investigation of Ava Tyson. So it's kind of a weird mix-up of a clash of worlds you're seeing. Now, one thing that I've sort of seen floating around is the concept of the NDA. Is violating the NDA legally wrong, Mutahar? Well, it depends, right? Like, if you're violating, let's say, for example, I hired you at our company, right? And I told you a secret about, something we're doing a month from now, a production that we have coming out in the next 2-3 months. And you decide to leak that onto the internet. So, for example, I went out and filmed something with Caleb, Tom, Brandon Buckingham, Wendigoon, and it was we filmed like 4 or 5 big videos. Now, the thing about it is, in that company, in the production for those videos, if we hired you to be the editor for that video, and we had told you, hey, don't leak any of this at all, not a single ounce of footage. We want this for you to edit, we want you to put these videos together, and we want you to, basically have these ready to go up on our actual collaborative channel. If you decided to leak that footage, it would be well within our right to take you to court. Obviously, you're leaking stuff that would be considered our secrets. It would be considered our intellectual property, things like that. Now, if on that footage you saw that me and all the guys fucking filmed a snuff movie and actually murdered somebody on camera, something that extreme, what you have witnessed is a crime. And no matter what NDA we make you sign, you cannot fear for bringing that to the police or the public, because NDAs, if you very quickly look them up, do not actually protect you. If they're do not actually protect the people who are issuing the NDA if there is a crime being committed, right? Like if there are actual criminal activities happening, the NDA doesn't prevent you from disclosing that to the public, or more specifically, law enforcement, okay? That's just how these things tend to work. Now, something about cease and desist that always weirded me out is my own personal experience with them was probably a little bit around the time during the Save the Kids stuff that I did with CoffeeZilla. Now, during this time, one of the people in the videos, I believe it was like maybe Phase K, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the, it was Phase K, the one that was like basically one of the faces on the Save the Kids advertising, had sent out a cease and desist through some ambulance-chasing lawyer to CoffeeZilla. And basically, in that cease and desist, any other co-investigator, yours truly, would basically be brought into the fold if we didn't just shut up. Now, the thing about cease and desist is, obviously, if you're somebody new to this game, you'll probably be like, wow, I'm being told that I could be going to court. And the thing about a cease and desist is it's basically a legal way of telling you to stop doing some alleged wrongdoing, right? And so when I brought this up to my lawyer and also brought it up to other creators like Ethan Klein from H3H3, basically I was just like told from really everyone that, hey, as long as you know what you're doing is right and you have the case to prove it, then you really shouldn't be taking it up the ass by an ambulance-chasing lawyer. And it really seems like Dogpack doesn't give a shit. Now, allegedly, Dogpack also mentioned that apparently his number ended up getting leaked. Dude, has anyone at Beast contacted you about the posts you're making? I've been reading the NDA over to see what I can and can't post because I'd like to move on with my life and try having some type of social media presence. Also, if you're going to post my message for proof, you worked at Beast, I don't care, just don't show my number. You can save it how you want. Also, I got your number from Kaylee. I don't have access to anything Beast like Slack or anything. Obviously, I'm not an employee. I'm a former employee. Someone else I know told me they texted you on Reddit talking about Kaylee or Leroy. I'm not that person. And I won't mention any current or former employees because of the NDA. So then, allegedly, Dogpack gets this fucking message that said, hey, I'm texting you anonymously to let you know that I heard James wants to have a private investigator start following you and looking into every detail of your life. He wants him to reach out to your former employers, find all of your social media accounts, your family's social media accounts, videos of you, anything. They already have a Google Doc listing possible ways to discredit you, including you're on drugs and have mental health problems. Your mom is bipolar. You were an obsessed superfan. You were crying begging for your job back after they fired you. You tried to steal company funds. So yeah, this is insane shit. So obviously somebody who got this cease and desist, apparently they don't give a shit. They're just leaking out everything possible right here. So when Dogpack is faced with a cease and desist, he decides, yeah, I'm just gonna go full balls to the wall, involve Hitler, Jeffrey Epstein, and even pretty much mention the idea of like the Team C's like actual charity, which a lot of YouTubers, myself included, basically cameoed and also like participated and gave our likeness to Mr. Beast, and accuses it of not basically being as altruistic as it seems. So according to Dogpack, what he basically said that he was going to originally expose the philanthropy efforts and basically being more about aiding private interests and boosting the image than actually doing anything good. But in that investigation, he came across something far more interesting that no one has ever found. And apparently his part 2 will be far more damaging. This is literally one kid versus one of the largest enterprises on YouTube. Truly, it is like legitimately a David and Goliath story, right? Like just size-wise. But again, I like to be fair and balanced whenever I look at stuff like this. And obviously, this is just one person's story. Obviously, Mr. Beast has a side as well, too, in that whole company. So it really is worth seeing, and I'm really, really hoping to see what their actual side is, because at this point, an actual statement from the Mr. Beast guys could either completely bury this fucking guy, or it could absolutely bury their company. There is no in-between anymore. It is extreme ends of the spectrum. Now, I'm going to take this whole mention with a little bit of, like, charity here. I think it's more intended to be, yes, obviously you're removing trash from an ocean, but it is also a way to show that, yes, we can all collaborate even more down the road to do even more impactful things. I don't think I want to be as cynical as possible just off of this thread. So what he says is, why did Team C's never mention corporate pollution or push for a ban on unnecessary single-use plastics, and instead push the narrative that this problem is solvable by people and cleanup efforts? Could it be that 50% of the money went to a Peter Thiel startup, funded startup whose largest sponsor is Coca-Cola? And of course, one of the things is, he mentions an actual post by renewalmatter.eu, where they say 56 companies are responsible for 50% of the world's plastic population, of which the top 5 are the Coca-Cola company, 11%. So yeah, not exactly the best look possible. So then he talks about why plastic pollution is bad, and how depending on the size of certain microplastics, they can pass through gastrointestinal tract, cellular membranes, and even blood-brain barriers, facing like Danny Phantom, all while potentially carrying thousands of different chemicals that are attacking your body. And obviously I'm going to stop right here because I'm not a doctor. I don't understand the implications of microplastics on the human body. But yeah, honestly, it's a fair criticism to be bringing up, right? Like, hey, if you're going to make an environmentally like positive video, maybe it's better to focus the efforts against the actual problems, right? It's like when people complain about, oh, this guy's driving like a gas-guzzling SUV, but they conveniently will ignore the fact that some fucking environmental, like, tree-hugger celebrity will constantly private jet around the world, and then in their one private jet flight, which they do several a year, obviously, that one private jet flight probably does more harm to the environment and the ozone layers than that person's fucking 10 years of driving, right? It's insanity. So yeah, it is absolutely worth looking into regulations, looking into talks. But this isn't a video about teaching you about environmental causes and whatnot, okay? I'm not an expert at it. I definitely do care about the environment, but at this moment in time, I definitely am not prepped enough to discuss this topic. But going back to the cease and desist, right? Obviously, Dogpack doesn't give a fuck. And in fact, he's been on several like interviews. One of them being on my brother's channel, Oompaville, where he talks about this whole situation and some of the allegations that he made. One of them did strike out to me. In fact, 2 of them. One of them about the raccoon, and the other one about this private island that apparently Mr. Beast spent $1 on when it was actually like 23. Listen closely.
They say, oh, it was never a secret, but it's like, well, when you're being criticized for using CGI, why are you not openly acknowledging it? Again, not a big claim in my video.
What about the raccoon?
Raccoon was... Dude, the raccoon, in reality, it's much worse than being a paid actor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a domestic raccoon that they brought to the set, and they're like sort of treating it like a prop. They're putting it in the ceiling and then pretending like, you know, they just discovered it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's a scene where somebody off camera takes the raccoon and like throws it onto the bed, and I'm sure you could pull this clip up. The edit is very strange because there's a zoom in and pan up, so it like hides the fact that the raccoon is going on the bed, but what it's really doing is hiding the fact that someone's throwing the raccoon. And then there's a voiceover in post of Jimmy saying, oh man, the raccoon just ran in the hotel or whatever, and they're like screaming at it and shit. So it's like almost, I wouldn't say animal abuse, but like it's kind of borderline mistreatment when you're just like using it as a prop and then just scaring it for no reason.
So actually, yeah, that's a pretty sketchy point as well, too. So one of the obvious, like, claims that Dogpack had made in his previous video was, like, the raccoon was apparently CGI. When they talk about a paid actor, it means obviously it's a trained animal. Nobody's gonna fucking sit there with a wild raccoon, okay? That's fucking crazy, god damn it. But, yeah, if you're kind of, like, unintentionally scaring the animal, I'm sure depending on how close people are to animals or what your, what your barometer for abuse or mistreatment is, some would consider that to be pretty wrong. And I really don't think anybody should be putting any animal in a bad situation. I don't know what the point of the raccoon was in that video, but yeah, it certainly didn't even really need to be there to begin with. But yeah, the other big thing that they were talking about was the island that was purchased for $1, right? So I'm going to play this clip and just walk you through that.
The island costs more than $1. What about that? What do you think about that? What do you think about that response?
If you literally Google what he tells you to Google, it used to say that it was $1 for the transfer fee, but $27 plus taxes and everything. Also, like, the tax property records show that the island is valued at $800, and then they leased it back to the owner for $0, which is like, dude, who gives a shit that the island didn't cost $1? It's just insane that they go to such extremes to...
Got lost in the whirlpool of tasks? Your Mac may be on the brink of burnout as well.
Never admit that they've ever faked anything. That Chucky released his statement at 4 a.m., which is like I think that's very intentional to when I'm sleeping.
So that's actually a really, really good point, okay? Obviously, I don't give a shit if they bought the island for $1 or $100, okay? I've been around this game enough to know that, yes, there is clickbait, and obviously everything that's stated is not as true as it seems. But when your brand is kind of built on, I'm not faking this is as true, as honest as possible, why go through the extent of even responding to that, right? Or like even trying to obfuscate the fact that, yeah, you paid the price of, you know, like $28. You paid almost $30 for an island when you added in all the fucking fees. Did you really have to make it seem like you spent just $1? It's this thing with like YouTube communities that when you come across situations like this, it's best to be as honest and transparent with your audience as possible. The more these kind of little nuggets build up against you, the harder it is to have integrity and the harder it is to have that relationship with your audience, which is something that, at least for some of these large channels, especially personality-driven channels, you need to be able to make sure that you are as transparent as you can be with the audience. Dude, if I told you guys that I bought a fucking island for $1 or $28, I don't think I would have to joke around and say, yeah, I bought the island. I would just say that I bought the island for like $28. Then I would never need to be criticized by somebody like this. And it's still impressive to be buying an island for $28, okay? I'm like drooling at the property price right there, because it's impressive. But like I said in my last video, I think the responses that they picked out, like the raccoon and the island fees, these are so minuscule. When in his same video, Dogpack's video, he talked about illegal lotteries. He talked about actual like fraudulent stuff right there. That is what you should have responded to. If you're not willing to respond to that and instead, you know, send out these alleged cease and desists, that is one of the most terrible looks anybody can have on the situation right now. So going to the actual messages. Now, last time I looked at, you know, these leaked 500,000 something Discord messages that apparently posted Mr. Beast, David Tyson in the worst possible light, you know, ever, right? So you had somebody like Ava Tyson, who was apparently allegedly part of this, you know, insanely, you know, very much NSFW server based on the logs that I had read, especially when there was like adults and minors mixed in. And there was obviously people who were looking through Discord user IDs and were linking Mr. Beast over to that actual Discord server where there was some really unsavory things being shared around. Now, since then, that entire set of leaks, which existed on GitHub, has since been taken down. So if you go to that chriscott.github.io, yeah, it's error 404. It doesn't exist anymore. And the thing about it is at the time, you know, the person who was running that account, Nathan here, was basically saying that they assumed that it was a cease and desist. But in reality, it doesn't actually seem like it was even a cease and desist in general. What it really seemed like was that they actually violated Discord's terms of services by, you know, not using their, you know, service in a proper way. So when they were talking about GitHub's acceptable use policies, one of the things that came up to me was user safety. So we do not allow content or activity on GitHub that is sexually obscene or relates to sexual exploitation or abuse involving that of minors, for instance. So I assume that GitHub, which is really just a Git versioning, you know, site to begin with, meant for code and like open source projects, right? It's not meant for distributing these Discord leaks to begin with. You probably would have had a better option just sharing that around on Mega Upload to begin with and just letting people download and browse it on their own volition. So when talking about prohibited uses on GitHub Pages too, GitHub Pages is not intended for or to be allowed to be used as a free web hosting service to run your online business, e-commerce website, or other website that is primarily directed at either facilitating commercial transaction or providing commercial software as a service. GitHub Pages should also not be used for sensitive transactions, like sending passwords or credit card transactions. In addition, they're also subject to terms of services, including the restrictions on get-rich-quick schemes, sexually obscene content, and violent or threatening content or activity. And yes, that content was relatively obscene. Now, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, obviously I don't think that there was like a cease and desist. I think it was probably the worst site to throw it up on. And one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this up is obviously to be fair and balanced into it. If there are actual alleged cease and desists going out, you probably should be focused on where they're alleged to be going out and not where like speculation is like pretty much cut and dry. So in this situation, I don't really think it's GitHub or, you know, them getting served with an illegal notice or there being some form of like, you know, things being hidden, you know, at least from those Discord logs At this point, those logs probably exist on numerous storefronts right now. So, you're probably looking at like Mega, for instance. I'm sure you can find them on Twitter. I'm sure the entirety of them have already been picked through on like Kiwi Farms or something. So, you're probably going to be just fine finding those logs, even if they've been removed from GitHub. Now, obviously, one of the things that I feel like people really have wanted to touch upon is the allegations that there have been some pretty serious, on-set malfeasance for this Amazon Prime show that Mr. Beast is filming. Now, one of the things that I found on my Reddit that kind of blew up a little bit was Beast Games 2024 contestant alleges a $5 million prize winner was predetermined by
Blender tutorial. In this video, we're going to change node, or just, so let me grab, and now another reset. This. So this is obviously to taste however much or however little you want to do. There's a lot of different ways of adding noise to a tree in this case, or in a case like this, but that was just kind of a quick and easy way that I found. All right, now let's move on to the final iteration, which will be want it to be. So before we get into adding the final step, which is of course the leaves, I want to go back up here and work on adding some noise to all of these levels of branches. So I'm going to add some noise to this curve, and I want it to affect the curve before it gets the radius applied to it and before it's spit out to the points here. I'm actually going to add it right here after the resample curve node. So I'm going to press Shift A. All the things we have to, let's crank this top for the or however, because what we can do is just grab our noise group that we so now we can use that in there to a noise scale Y. All right, so now you don't have to dial this scale 2 or however many settings from here you want. These new sockets for the noise scale of each of these. You can add the detail too, or however many settings from here you want. So I'll name this noise scale Y. All right, so now you don't have to dive in there to adjust the noise scale for these two axes, which is cool. So now we can use that same noise group right here after the instances. And this is convenient because what we can do is just grab our noise group that we just created and feed that right into here, and you'll notice axis, which is all right. So I'll name this noise scale Y. So you can come here to group from the group input. So I'm going to grab this group input, come here to group, and add 2 new sockets for the noise scale. of each of these. You can add the detail too, or however many settings from here you want. So I'll name this noise scale Y. All right, so now you don't have to dive in there to adjust the noise scale for these two axes. Which is cool. So now we can use that same noise, adjust the noise scale Y. All right, so now you don't have to dive in there to adjust the noise scale for these two axes, which is cool. So now we can use that same noise group, right? Grab, you'll notice the real life, and now the noise pattern is way more interesting. And so you get kind of a global of adding noise, quick and easy. We're going to do a similar setup as all of this, but we don't quite need all of these. So I'll just go ahead and Shift-D duplicate. I need a quick and easy. This is convenient. Noise scale Y. All right, so now you don't have to dive in for the noise group and add 2 new sockets for the noise scale. Of each of these. You can add the detail too, or however many settings from here you want. So I'll name this noise scale Y. All right. So now you don't have to dive in there. there to adjust the noise scale for these two axes, which is cool. Distortion. And obviously this is totally to taste however much you want to work with here. It's just a nice subtle amount. All right, I'm going to do the same thing we did earlier with the spline length. I'm going to group all of this along with the set position node. Control G, tab out of there, and I'm going to name this group noise so that we can reuse this on all of our branch. Control G. Tab out of there, and I'm going to with the set position node, clear with in the curve along the Y and the X, so that it's moving in two different directions, get a little more distortion. And obviously this is totally to taste however much you want to work with here. It's just a nice subtle amount. All right, I'm going to do the same thing we did earlier with the spline length. I'm going to group all of this along with the set position node. Control G, tab out of there, and I'm going to name this group noise so that we can reuse this on all of our branches. I'm also going to take this output and feed it into the resample curve node that's going into all of our branches. And you can see the difference there because right now we just have the input fed into there, and it changes the position of the branches slightly when we add in that noise. So now they stay locked to the actual trunk of the tree better. And now if we want to adjust the noise, we can of course go in here and adjust it. But it's helpful to have that value be able to be adjusted from the group input. So I'm going to grab this group input, come here to group, and add 2 new sockets for the noise scale of each of these. You can add the detail too, or however many settings from here you want. So I'll name this noise scale Y. All right, so now you don't have to dive in there to adjust the noise scale for these 2 axes, which is cool. So now we can use that same noise group right here after the instances. And this is convenient because what we can do is just grab our noise group that we just created and feed that right into here. And you'll notice that it's not really too exciting if we slide this around. However, if we drop in a realize instances node in front, then all these instances become realized, and now the noise pattern is way more interesting. And so you get kind of a global jittering of all of the objects here. So this is obviously to taste however much or however